What's up, creepers and kickers? Chris, the Atari Creep. How's everyone doing today? Today on the Creeps Play Things, we're not going to necessarily talk about a specific toy. No reviews, no just showing it off. I got a few repairs I need to do, and I figured, what the heck? Why not put this on camera and put it up on the channel? It's just something interesting. Now, there's 100 ways to do this, I'm sure, and I'm sure there's a number of videos out there on other people doing this very thing. In fact, I got this idea from a video a long time ago. And it seems to work out pretty well. So I figured, what the heck? I needed to do it to a few figures. Why not document one of them? And just share what I've learned with some of you folks that may not have seen the other videos, or may just be interested in this kind of thing. So you know what? For the most part, I've been pretty lucky when it comes to Masters of the Universe figures. The repair we're going to be doing today, if you couldn't tell from the descriptions, we're going to fix some loose legs. In fact, the figure we're going to actually work on, the legs came off of the body, and we'll explain how and why that happens. But as you can see here, my He-Man figure, he stands just fine, but as soon as you move him around just a little bit, you know, he may need a little more may need a little more persuading to get standing up. Now again, with a little bit of that's what ends up happening. For the most part, I can get most of my figures to stand up, but there's a couple of repairs we can do to fix that. One, you can just leave it be and just hopefully, you know, get them to stand up and leave them on there. You can buy actual replacement rubbers to go inside of the body here. There's a rubber, I call it a barbell, that connects to each one of the legs inside of a socket. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll show you a picture. With a band, a rubber band that goes straight across. So it looks like basically like a dumbbell. And it attaches inside the sockets of these legs, and it goes around a little portion inside the body here, down the lower torso area, the groinal area. And over time, they just deteriorate and they get loose, and they literally just break down. They rot. Most of my figures have varying degrees of rot. Now, yesterday, I made a trade for this Mosquitor. Mosquitor is one of my favorite figures here. Let me get some blood pumping here. But they're not very easy to come by. And for the most part, with the exception of he doesn't have any legs, which he did at the time of purchase, he's in really nice shape. So it's not only tough to get a hold of one, but it's tough to find one that's in great shape, that the blood pump still works, and it's not all dried up. So between that and it was a trade, so I didn't have to shell out any cash, it was a no-brainer to pick it up. But as soon as I touched them, I knew these legs weren't going to survive. As a matter of fact, I don't think it was 5 minutes. I took them out of the little baggie the guy had him in with his weapon and his comic book. And as soon as I moved the leg, it was just like pop. It was just ready to go. So I figured, what the heck? I picked up some supplies. I'm going to do a couple of my figures. Not all of them, because I like to leave them alone as much as I can. Like He-Man here, I am able to get him to stand up with a little bit of negotiation. So I won't touch him until he absolutely needs it. And maybe down the line, we will do the actual replacement rubber things. But for now, this is the technique I'm going to go with. And again, it's nothing new. It's been around for a while. But who knows? Maybe some people who follow my channel haven't seen this before. So let me show you what we're going to need and how we're going to go about doing this. Right, so pretty much what we need to get this job done is a figure whose legs are all fucking banged up. Whether they're loose or just completely removed, whatever. You know what? As a side note, not to keep rambling on, but if you're someone who's looking to start collecting for Masters of the Universe, and I'm fairly new to the collection myself, but you don't have a lot of means, if you don't mind buying them like this and getting supplies, you know, putting a little bit of time into it, you can actually have a really nice sizable collection for next to nothing. A lot of figures, maybe not Mosquitor, but you can buy just like this, a lot of the common stuff for under $5, especially if you can buy it in a big box of just parts and whatever, and you just piece it together. You could get a really decent collection for cheap. And the parts that you need here only cost about $5 or $6 depending on where you go. And with that $5 or $6 investment, you can repair between 10 and 15 of these figures. So you do the math. You get a couple of figures for under $5. You get some supplies to repair them. You're good to go. So what do you need to actually repair? What are we going to retrofit this with? We need a couple of screwy eyelet things. I prefer the ones that are closed, but you can buy the ones that are open. Just don't buy the ones with the flange. I don't think I've ever seen anyone use the one with the flanges, but it's very easy to buy those by mistake. Make sure there's no flange on it. And of course, you need some kind of a rubber O-ring. This one's about the size of a dime. I didn't measure it, but I think it is like a 3/8 thickness, and I like the thicker ones. Shut up. Mainly because of its strength. We will have to stretch this out just a little bit, but we will get to that in a minute. As far as tools, you need a couple pairs of pliers. I'll have my other pair here in a minute. Some screwdrivers, and maybe about 10 minutes of time. Once you really figure out how to do this, it won't take you about 5 or 10 minutes to get it going. So here's the inside of the leg. I've removed all of the rubber in both legs. You don't necessarily have to do that. There will be just a strand sticking out. As long as you get most of that out there and you have a nice flat surface to work with in here, that'll work just fine. You can keep the ball end of the rubber piece. It looks like a dumbbell. I know I've already shown you a picture, but you can keep that in there. I chose to take it out because this one was so severely crumbly. I didn't want to interfere with how the eyelets lock into the legs. So the first thing we're going to need to do is open up one of these eyelets, get the gasket onto the eyelet, close it back up, and stick it onto one of the legs. Now, I prefer to start with his right leg, which is on our left side, and work from there. And then we're going to open up another eyelet and put it into the other leg and set that aside as we move on. Get the first job done. I use these pliers here to hold on to the thing. I use these needle nose to open up the loop, just enough to get the O-ring onto it. And while still holding it with these pliers, I closed it up. Now it's just a matter of screwing it into the leg. You don't want to go too far just yet, but you want it to be as centered as possible. And that's what you should end up with at this point. You don't want the eyelet going in too far yet. We are probably going to put this down 2/3 of the way once it's attached to the figure, but for right now, that's more than fine to work with. So we need to open up to get ready to accept the O-ring. This can be a little tricky sometimes. There we go. I like to come at it sideways so it corkscrews instead of opens up straight, because you could snap the metal. This way it's just a matter of just pinching it back into place. When it comes to putting the eyelet into the legs itself, some people like to drill pilot holes. You don't necessarily need to do that. These legs are soft enough but strong enough too to hold on to the screw head. So it's just a matter of just popping it in there and holding it steady, getting the pilot hole started, and then just slowly turning it. I did already do that once on camera, but I had a little bit of a sound issue behind me, so I'm redoing it after it's done. But you don't want to put this in too far either, because you need to leave it open enough to accept the O-ring once we pass it through the body. And now we're ready to do what I call the fun part, which, by the way, is not very fun. Next, for the fun part of this job. Now, I say that sarcastically, and you know what? Once you do this a few times, it becomes fairly simple, and it's really not that hard. It's just very fidgety and can be a pain in the butt if you don't take your time and just do it properly. Now, when you look inside the lower groin area here, you're going to notice there's a little bit of a gap here. Stay away from that. What we're looking for is above this connecting pole piece here. If you look up in here, and I know it's tough to see on the camera, especially if I smash into it like that, but there is a gap that goes completely out to the other side, and that's where the original rubber band went. So now what we need to do is get some string, which again I forgot to mention in the things you will need for this repair section. Get it around here and then feed it through. And you want a nice long piece so you can really wrap it around your finger and really give it a good tug. Some people use, those zip ties, and they cut off the heads to them. And you can fold zip ties and pinch them so they'll stay in a specific orientation. So that might work out pretty well. And that's also where the pliers will come in really well, holding onto it and helping you pull it. But the trick is to get this O-ring up and around that pole that's shown right there and out the other side. And then we need to grab one of our little screwdrivers or anything else that you have that's, similar in shape, to grab underneath the O-ring to keep the O-ring on this side. So let me get set up to do that, and hopefully I can do it on camera. If not, you're going to see the end result. Before I actually do that, I want to show you something real quick. Nothing I do is real quick. Note the position of the eyelet and the O-ring. I want this to feel natural going straight across. Now, it's not going to end up in this position probably, but for right now, you want to make this job as easy as possible. And if you see here the way I have the eyelet and the O-ring, it's going to feed as easy as it possibly can through there. I just wanted to stop real quick and show you that. Guys, I don't know how well this is going to turn out, you know, just the position of the tripod and all that stuff. So I'm going to try to do it the best I can. I got some nylon twine here, some string, whatever you want to call it. I added a little hook to it here. Hopefully we can get it through here without issue. And there we go. Got that. Now you're going to want to have your little screwdriver handy here, ready to rock and roll. Let's get all this in the right position here. Now it's just a matter of pulling it through. Get that around there like that. Let's untwist the O-ring. Now just take our screwdriver, put it through, push it straight over. Bam! And there you go. That's what you're after right there. Some people choose to keep the string there. I'm going to opt to get rid of the string, holding onto the screwdriver, of course, to try to keep that in place. Now it's just a matter of taking your hook here and hopefully getting it into, let me reposition the screwdriver just slightly. Maybe do this. Get the leg into it. Make sure it's definitely in there. Let go of it with the screwdriver. And there we go. We got both sides together. And I probably should have did this part before the screwdriver was missing. But let's close this loop. I fished the screwdriver back in there. Sorry about the hard edit, because without something to grip onto the other side of this thing, it's tough to close the loop. But bam! There we go. That's all you need to do for that. Now that I pulled that screwdriver out of the ring there, it's a good bet to put it right here into the eyelet. And I'll just slowly turn the leg, tightening up that loop into the leg. And eventually I'm going to have to pull the screwdriver out because it's, you know, it's only going to go so far with the screwdriver in there. I think I've done this a few times, right? There we go. We don't want to go too far because we are eventually going to have to fine tune this. That's good enough for that side for now. Let's do the same to this side. You know, I'm not even paying attention. I hope all of this is getting in on the camera. Grab it right there at the top. And just slowly screw the leg onto it. Like I said, we don't want too much of the eyelet poking out of the leg because it's going to jam up into the deal there. So let's see where we're at with that. That's about where you want it. Like I said, now it's about fine tuning. I personally like. Oh, I just happened to do that. To position the eyelet along with the seam on the leg. You see, so it's like a straight line there. We get that leg in there like that. This one seems to be okay. And let's see what we got going on here. Okay, we need to fine tune it just a little bit more. There you have it. Now he'll stand up. Sorry about that hard edit. It turns out the loops I was using, I didn't close it up enough. And it was actually spreading the inside of his leg socket to make the leg a little too wide to go into his underpants. But I was able to get it just right after tweaking. And there is a fine tune between how much you go into each leg. And you don't really want to play with it too much because the more you twist it, the more you're marring away at the plastic on the inside of the leg. But we got him good to go, and he is ready to go on the shelf. So there you have it, guys. There he is on the shelf with all of his buddies. I know there's some good guys and some bad guys and some even bad guys. Is that what you would call the horde? I mean, you had the good guys, you had the bad guys, and then you had the horde, which hated the bad guys as well as the good guys. So, I don't know. You decide for yourself. On my shelf, everybody here is a bunch of friends. I mean, even the Emperor and Rick Deckard. Look how close they get. I actually think they got something going on. They're just too ashamed to tell me. That's okay, you know. Que sera, sera, right? Oh, what is that? That might be coming up in a video pretty soon. Who knows? Oh, you know what? One more thing before I sign off. Everyone keeps asking me on Instagram, how come I don't see He-Man on the shelf? Where's He-Man? He's where he belongs. Up there with the Atari 2600 stuff. If you ask me, I think that's a perfect throne for him. But regardless, I hope this information was at least informative, if not entertaining. It was a last-minute idea to do, even though I was going to do it anyway. I figured, what the heck? Pull out the phone. Let's make a different kind of video. And I hope it helps somebody out. Not that this information's not out there, but you know, what the hell? You never know, right? So, guys, I hope everyone's doing well. And that's really all there is to it. Go ahead and leave feedback. Thumbs up, thumbs down. All feedback is positive. Take care. Creep it real. And bye-bye. So now what I got to do is I got to pull all these guys down and put this behind it and then try to get them all back up there. Oh, woe is me.